पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारश्च तन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। नमः श्री शङ्करानन्द गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने सविलासमहामोह ग्राहग्रासैककर्मणे।
Conclusion of the 6th chapter. In here is discussed the Vedanta Siddhanta principle that the outer behavior of the wise man, different wise men or different wise people may vary, but these three characteristics, namely Vairagya, Bodha and Uparati, the dispassion. Bodha meaning the knowledge, and Uparati meaning the abidance of the mind. These three are going to be common to all the wise people. He will explain what is the cause of Vairagya arising from those who state. By recognizing the dosha or the defect involved in the worldly pleasure arises a dispassion or a dispassion for them. From that arises a desire to give up those things, and from that arises adhinata, an independence or freedom from the pleasure objects of pleasure. The knowledge arises from the three names Shravana, Manana, Nidhyasana. Shravana, Manana, Nidhyasana, listening, reflection and contemplation or meditation becomes the means to knowledge. As a result, one becomes clear about Tattva, Atattva, Atma, Anatma, Viveka. What is Atma? What is Anatma? What is self? What is non-self? Becomes clear. This is the nature of the knowledge. And from that, Granthe Anudeha, one no more entertains the complex of a sense of individuality or a sense of limitation. One becomes free from that complex once and for all. And as a result of the knowledge of the self which is free, there also then follows what we call a disengagement from any activity. There is a knowledge that the self is actionless, and the wise man abides in this knowledge. Even though the action is being performed at the level of the body or at the level of the mind, there is this knowledge that Atma, the self, I am actionless. And thus the wise man abides in the self that is actionless, and therefore really becomes free from any kind of an activity. He enjoys also an abiding mind, who never gets disturbed or perturbed regardless of what the situation is. And that mind is an abiding mind, a relaxed mind, in spite of intense activity which may appear at the outer level. These three are then the characteristics of wise man. And if you find all these three, that there is a total dispassion, there is an abiding knowledge, and an abiding or undisturbed mind, if all the three are found in full measure, and rare are those people, like Shukadeva, like Vamadeva. So we hear such people who had in the dispassion in full measure, who had total disengagement in full measure, and who were abiding in the knowledge. This is Mahataha Tapasaha Phalam. Realize that this, to be able to have this, is the phalam or the result of great penance or countless meritorious actions that may have been performed. The idea is that if you have dispassion, that is also because of the grace, or because of the result of the meritorious actions. If you have the knowledge, well, that also because of that. And so, great amount of penance must have been performed, as a result of which a person is able to acquire these three in full measure. Otherwise, you may find that one or two of them are not in full measure. Of which, if the knowledge is there, abiding knowledge, then the person is definitely assured of freedom or liberation. However, if knowledge is not abiding, in which case, on account of this dispassion, vairagya and uparama, one gains what they call the worlds of the virtuous people, enjoys the pleasures there, returns to the human form, and continues the journey until he gains the knowledge, abiding knowledge. This is what is discussed at the end. And now, says in the introduction of verse 287, Nanu tattvabodhavataamapi ragadimatvena vaishamya upalambhat jnanasyapi muktihetutvam nischedum nasakyam. He says, Nanu tattvabodhavataamapi, even the people who are wise. We find that even in the wise people also, ragadimatvena, we find them also having some attachments. Sometimes in wise people also, apparently we find some attachments and aversions. Vaishamya upalambhat. And therefore, there is vishamata, or there is a diversity even in the characteristics of wise people. That everyone doesn't exhibit the same kind of nature. Somebody is very active, somebody is inactive, somebody seems to be in an environment of lots of comfort and pleasures, somebody seems to be in an environment of total austerity. So we find wise people having different nature, having different kind of activities, or having different kind of environment. And therefore, we do not find the sameness in wise people. Vaishamya upalambhat. So we feel that everybody doesn't seem to be liberated. Even though the knowledge is there, it doesn't seem that everyone is necessarily liberated, because we find apparently lot of variation in their characteristics. And therefore, how do we say, or how do we know that knowledge necessarily gives liberation? Jnanasyapi muktihetutvam nischedum nasakyam. It is not possible for us to ascertain that knowledge necessarily results in liberation. Because in spite of knowledge, we find people having likes and dislikes. Ragadehe vyadhyadivat arabdha karma phalatvad. A very beautiful answer is given. Because we always observe the wise people. And we always want to emulate them, imitate. So what is it that we should actually imbibe from the wise people? The outer characteristics are different in different people. And so the answer given is, just as the body also has disease, whether it's the body of a wise person or an otherwise person, because to have disease, old age, etc. are the characteristics of the body, because of what we call prarabdha karma, or because of the nature of the body, because of the actions which has given rise to the body, and therefore there is disease, that's the nature of course for the body. And similarly also, this kind of some mental difficulties like likes and dislikes, etc., which we may find even in a wise person, understand that to be also a result of prarabdha karma. So because of the past samskaras or impressions, desires may arise, even likes and dislikes also may manifest on the surface, but they do not in any way threaten or obscure the knowledge. All the time the point that is being made is that the characteristic of the upadhi, namely the body or mind, should not in any way become the criterion for judging the knowledge. And therefore, even if you find, suppose, as an example, that a wise person shows some anger or something like that, likes or dislikes, understand that these are merely the characteristics of the mind. Sometimes we hear Swami hearing that mind is crazy by itself. That is the nature of mind. And therefore mind may exhibit variety of thoughts. and variety of modifications. But that play of the mind, which is because of its own upbringing, because of its own culture, because of its own samskara or impressions, and that does not in any way obscure or threaten or deny the knowledge. So just as the disease that we find in the body can be explained as a result of the prarabdha karma, so also this kind of modifications that we find in the mind are also a result of the prarabdha karma. I cannot determine what will be my next thought. What determines the thinking process? What determines what kind of thoughts arise in my mind? I don't determine. And so we have to say that the prarabdha karma, the actions that we perform, determines that. Because every moment what we encounter is the product of the past. The present is the product of the past. And past means all the accumulated actions of the past. They give rise to the present. The present state of the body as well as the present state of the mind. And knowledge, however, is independent of this, because knowledge is that the body, the mind, etc. are non-self, and the self is the witness of them all. And this knowledge does not in any way get affected or threatened because of certain conditions of the mind. Vyadhyadivat, vyadhi meaning like disease, arabdha karma phalatvad ragadehe, just as raga, dvesha, attachment, aversion, etc. are also the result of the prarabdha karma. Mukti pratibandhakatvam asiddham. And so these different states of mind do not become pratibandhaka, do not become obstacles to the mukti or the liberation. Atahana shastrartha vipratipattavyam. And therefore, one should not have any vipratipatti, should not have any misconceptions about the shastrartha, meaning about the purport of the scriptures. That when one abides in this knowledge of the discriminative knowledge of the self and the non-self, then definitely liberation is, regardless of what the state of the body or the mind is. Although we don't expect in wise people any kind of unbecoming action, but Bhagavad Gita says, Sarvatha vartamanopi nasa bhuyo vijayate. However he may conduct himself, even then he is not born again, meaning he is liberated. Sayogi mayi vartate, that yogi still abides in me, however his external behavior may be. Not to say that the external behavior of the wise man will be licentious or will go against the accepted codes of conduct. But suppose we find that to be so, then also that should not become the criterion for us to judge that the person is not liberated. Because very often the wise man has a different perspective about their life. And from that perspective the person may act, and that may perhaps contradict our own understanding of what is right and what is wrong. So just because it contradicts our understanding does not mean that it is wrong. And so it can be from a different perspective. Atahana shastrartha vipratipattavyam. And therefore one should not have vipratipatti or doubts or misconceptions about the shastrartha, about the purport of the scriptures. That is what is said in the verse 287. आरब्ध कर्म नानात्वाद बुद्धानामन्यथान्यथा वर्तनं तेन शास्त्रार्थे भ्रमितव्यं न पंडितैः Arabdha karma nanatva. Nanatva meaning the variation. On account of the variation in the prarabdha karma. Because everyone's prarabdha karma or the actions are unique. What actions I have performed in the past are quite different from what actions someone else may have performed, and therefore my present state of the body and mind is going to be determined by that, and so on account of the variation in the prarabdha karma. Buddhanam anyatha vartanam. Therefore we find that even the wise people also anyatha vartanam, their behavioral pattern is different with every person. So every wise man seems to behave in a different way. Then on account of the variation that we see at the behavioral level, Shastra se panditahi na bhramitavyam, the panditas or the learned people or the thinking people should not in any way get confused or deluded by the variations in external behavior. Kim tarhi pratipattavyam. If you say that we should not take the outer behavior is a criterion for judging the knowledge, then what is it that we should understand? Kim tarhi pratipattavyam. What should have pratipatti? Pratipatti means knowledge or ascertainment. What is it that we should ascertain? That is said in the verse 288. Swasvakarmanusarena Swasvakarmanusarena Vartantam te yatha tatha Vartantam te yatha tatha Avishishtas sarvabodha Avishishtas sarvabodha Samamuktiriti sthitihi Samamuktiriti sthitihi. Swasvakarma anusarena Vartantam te yatha tatha. Let their vartanam, meaning let their outer behavior be yatha tatha, maybe whatever it is. Swasva karma anusarana, in accordance with their respective prarabdha karma. You must have heard this very famous verse. Krishno bhogi, shuko yogi, nrupo janakaraghavau, karmanistha vasisthadhyaha, sarvete jnaninas samaha. So all of these are wise people. Krishna bhogi, Lord Krishna is certainly wise, bhogi, but then always you find him surrounded by all kinds of pleasures and comforts. It is said that Lord Krishna had 16,008 wives, so you can imagine. And so always you find him surrounded by all, he was king also, or at least he was living in the palace, and therefore surrounded by all the pleasures that is possible. And even then, he was wise, there is no question about that. And Shuko Yogi, there is a very famous saint, say his name is Shukadeva. And he's totally virakta, totally unattached to anything. He had no possession. He used to move around only naked, with nothing on with him, no possessions. He would not even stay in a given place. It is said about Shukadevji that he would not live in a place for more than what it takes to milk a cow. That's all. He would keep walking and wandering. So Shukadeva shows the culmination of asangatva or detachment. And life of Lord Krishna on the other hand seems to show apparently all the attachment or all the comforts and pleasures. Nrupau Janakaraghavau, King Janaka and Lord Rama, both of them of course were wives. Nrupau, both of them were king. And so they were performing tremendous amount of activity in terms of ruling great kingdoms. Even then, that does not affect their wisdom. Karmanisthaha, Vasisthadhyaha. And the Vasistha, etc., Vamadeva, all of them were also very wise, greatly wise people, sages, but then always engaged in performance of rituals. Because Vasistha Rishi was also a Grihastha, and he was the priest of the court of King Dasharatha, and therefore all the time engaged in performance of different rituals. So one is performing rituals and Shukadevji is doing nothing. One is surrounded by all kinds of bhoga or objects of comfort, other one has nothing, and some others are ruling the kingdom, and thus some people are extremely active, some people are totally withdrawn from activity. Some people only perform the activity needed to sustain the body. Some people perform the activity that is minimum to sustain the life. And some people are extremely active. But then, even though all these things vary at the superficial level, avishishtaha sarvabodha. Bodha means knowledge is avishishtaha. There is no vishishtha. There is no variation as far as their knowledge or vision is concerned. There is great variation as far as their behavior is concerned. There is no variation in their knowledge. Sarvesham Aham brahmasmiti jnanam ekakaram nirvadya brahmarupena avasthanam cha samanam iti bhavaha. So avishishtaha sarvabodha aham brahmasmi, I am Brahman, meaning I am limitless, I am free. This knowledge is identical in all of them. Sama muktihi, and mukti means liberation also is the same. What is the nature of liberation? Nirvadya brahmarupena avasthanam. Abiding in knowledge that I am Brahman, which is Niravadya, which is free from any blemish. So blemish can be there only in the Upadhi, at the body or the mind level. There is no blemish in the self at all because it is immaculate, it is Shuddha, Nitya Shuddha. And abiding in the self which is ever pure, immaculate, as I say, this knowledge which amounts to liberation of freedom is also common to all of them. That's why Bhagavad Gita says, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne brahmane gavihastini suniceva svapakecha panditaha samadarshinaha. Wise people, samadarshinaha, they see the same self, whether it is a great scholar or whether it's a cow or an elephant or a dog eater. That shows all the stratas of the society, all the living beings, in all of them. Even those outwardly, they're all different. But then, wise person recognizes the same truth manifesting in all of them. And so, in that vision, they are identical. And that is the criterion. Criterion is what vision do they have, in what vision do they abide, from what platform they are functioning. We are functioning from the platform of body. We function from the platform of emotions. We function from the platform of ego. They don't function from the platform of ego or emotions for the body. They function only from the platform, I am Brahman, I am limitless. And this concludes the discussion of what is known as Chitra Deepam. And that is what is Prakanasya Tatparyam Sankshipya Darshayati. The verse 289 shows Tatparyam. What all has been said in the 288 verses is very briefly said here in the verse 289. Sankshipya in brief. Tatparyam, the purport of the entire chapter, is shown, Darshayati, is shown in the verse 289. Jagatchitram swachaitanyi, Jagatchitram swachaitanyi, Pate chitramivarpitam, Pate chitramivarpitam, Mayaya tadupekshaiva, Mayaya tadupekshaiva, Chaitanyam parisheshyatam, Chaitanyam parisheshyatam. So this chapter started with a very beautiful imagery. I guess that's what it should be called, where the whole creation is compared to a beautiful painting. So the author started Chitrapata. Chitra means a painting, and Pata means canvas. Painting on the canvas. So see how this has 4 stages. First is, you have the clean cloth, white clean cloth. Upon that, you apply the starch in the olden days. And that on the starch, now the canvas is ready for painting. Then you take either black pen or something and then draw the outlines of the picture. And finally, you fill in all the details and colors in that picture. So when we have a painted canvas in front of us, that painted canvas can be looked upon as developed in 4 stages: pure and simple cloth, which is a substratum. Upon that, you apply the starch, which then becomes a base because on the plain cloth you cannot paint. Painting requires a certain base, some superimposition upon the plain cloth. So you superimpose the starch, and that becomes the basis for painting. In painting also, first you draw the outlines with a colored pen or pencil, and then you fill in the colors. And similarly also, this whole creation is looked upon as a chitra, a painting, of which what is the canvas, or what's the cloth? Chit or chaitanyam, awareness is the cloth, the very substratum. Upon that you apply the starch. What is the starch? That is the maya. And that mayopahita chaitanyam, that chaitanyam upon which, with the maya as the upadhi, that becomes then the basis for the creation. Upon that, there are what we call the outlines first. What are the outlines? That is called the Hiranyagarbha, or the totality of all the subtle bodies. In that you fill up the colors, and you have the final painting. And when you fill up the colors, what it becomes? It becomes what we call Virat, or the cosmic person, or the whole cosmos. Whole cosmos is nothing but, as we said in the morning, nothing but the manifestation of Lord through these gross bodies. So this Jagat Chitram, the whole universe also is a chitra, also is a painting on the canvas. And then what happens? Further it was said there, that now in the painting there are animate and inanimate objects. There are mountains and rivers and trees, etc. They are all inanimate objects. In that painting you have animate objects, such as human beings and animals, etc. So human beings are there. These human beings are painted as having clothes, different clothes of different colors. And so, that clothes which are drawn for the human figures in there are also colored. Now to the uninitiated, when he sees this whole painting with the human beings in there, and sees those human beings in the painting as wearing different clothes, he thinks that those clothes are real. So actually what is real cloth is only that substratum, which is the cloth. However, the clothes that you see is worn by, or they are worn by those human figures, they are not real clothes. They are only superimposed. But the superimposition is taken to be reality. How the color that is actually belongs to one place is taken to be real belonging to another place. And similarly also in life, we find all the living beings, human beings in particular, and we find them as limited. But the limitations belong where? Limitations belong to the body, they belong to the mind, to the upadhi, and these limitations are superimposed upon the substratum which is chit or ourself. And therefore the samsara that belongs to the ego is taken to be samsara belonging to the self. And that's how everybody is trying to become free. Through action, and that action gives rise to reaction, gives rise to next birth, and thus the whole process of birth and death goes on. So this is how we have provided a whole picture. This was called Chitrapata. And then was shown how what is necessary is discrimination between what is false and what is true. The discrimination is required. Just as in the Chitrapata, in the painting also we must have the discrimination of what is real and what is unreal. That those clothes etc. are unreal and that substratum cloth is real. Here also the samsara that belongs to the upadhi doesn't belong to the self, and that discrimination ultimately makes us free from the samsara. So ignorance, which really causes ignorance of the true nature of the self, is the cause of samsara. This is how the whole introduction started. So Jagat Chitram Swachaitanye Pate Chitramyo Arpitam. Swachaitanye Pate, Pate means a cloth. Chaitanya means the self, that is consciousness. Self, that is consciousness, becomes a cloth. Upon that cloth, Jagat Chitram, this whole Chitra meaning, this whole painting in the form of the creation, Chitramyo Arpitam. Arpita means superimposed. Just as the painting is superimposed upon the canvas, so also the whole universe is superimposed upon the canvas or substratum in the form of Chaitanyam, which is the self. How? Maya. Maya Arpitam. By Maya, this whole creation is superimposed upon the Chaitanyam. Then what should we do? Tadupeksheva Chaitanyam Parisheshyatam. So what we are perceiving is the Jagat Chitram, meaning this whole creation which is like a painting. But where the painting is, the canvas must be. Because without the canvas, the painting cannot be. That's the beautiful thing about it. Because painting cannot be sustained unless the substratum or substrating namely canvas is. And so also the Jagat Chitram, meaning the whole universe which is like a painting, cannot be unless there is substratum. And we have to take into note that also, that without the substratum, the superimposition cannot be. So wherever Jagat is, there the Chaitanya must be. Without Chaitanyam, Jagat cannot be sustained. Just as wherever mirage water is, the desert must be there. Where that imaginary snake is, the rope must be there. Wherever Mithya is, real must be there. Because Mithya doesn't have a reality of its own. Mithya totally depends upon Satyam for its existence. Just as the snake derives its existence from Satta and Spurti. The snake shines and snake exists because of the rope. So also the Jagat of the creation shines. It exists because of substratum which is Chaitanyam. And so, Tadupeksha. Upeksha nama rupe dve Satchidananda Tatparaha. It is said in Drudrishya Vivekam. And this we have pointed out earlier, that every name and form exhibits or manifests Asti, Bhati and Priyam. That a name is Asti, that it shines Bhati, and that it has attractiveness, Priyam. And thus every name and form manifests existence, awareness, as well as happiness. And that is a real part of it. That's the real. So, Tadupeksha, the name and form is something that is superimposed. Upeksha, Chaitanyam Parisheshyatam. Says, may you always do this discriminative analysis. that what is variable, the name and form is variable and therefore it is not real, and the invariable is the Asti Bhati Priyam, the Satchit Ananda, and that is invariable. Always may you don't fail to perceive that also. When we transact, when we look at the world, we get so engrossed in the name and form that we fail to appreciate that the substrate of name and form also is. Like one becomes so absorbed or engrossed rather in looking at the design and painting on a pot that we fail to appreciate that this pot is really clay alone. How we miss the clay when we get preoccupied with the making of the pot. And so also we miss the substratum. We miss the Chaitanyam. We miss the self, the awareness, because of our total engrossment or preoccupation with names and forms. It says names and forms are there, but don't forget that upon which the names and forms depend, that upon which they are superimposed. Chaitanyam Parisheshadam. So the author says that may you realize that Chaitanyam or awareness is real and this Jagat Chitra is something superimposed. This is the purport of the whole chapter. And 288 verses were given just to give us this discriminative analysis. Imagine what a beautiful exposition this has been. Why should we do this? Why should we discriminate? Granthabhyas phalamaha. What is the phalam of the result of the Granthabhyasa? Grantha meaning this particular chapter. What is the result of the study of this chapter? It says in last verse 290. Chitradipamimam nityam yenu sandadhate buddha pashyantopi jagat-chitram te muhyanti na purvavate Chitradipam imam nityam ye anusandadhate buddhaha. Ye buddhaha, those wise people, anusandadhate, constantly anusandhanam, constantly deliberate upon, constantly contemplate upon, imam chitradipam. This chapter is called Chitradipa Prakaranam. This chapter is entitled Chitradipam. Deepa means a lamp. What is a lamp? Lamp is that which illumines. That is called lamp. So this chapter also is called a lamp. Why is it called lamp? Because it illumines something. What does it illumine? It illumines Chitram. Chitram is a painting. Jagat Chitram. So Jagat Chitra Prakashakam. So Jagat Chitra Prakashakaha Chitra Deepaha. This chapter is called lamp because it illumines the Chitra or the painting in the form of the creation. That is why this chapter is called Chitra Deepa. So 6th through the 10th, all the chapters are called Deepa. Each one of them illumines something. Next chapter is called Trupti Deepa. Trupti means the total satisfaction, the contentment that the wise man has on account of total freedom. And what contentment he enjoys, that is illumined in the 300 verses in the next chapter. It is called Trupti Deepa Prakaranam. And how this whole Jagat is Chitram. That this Jagat of the creation is not real. That what is real is the substratum. And this whole thing is illumined by this chapter. Therefore it is called Chitra Deepam. The very name suggests that Chitra or Jagat Chitram is Mithya. And that Mithyatvam of the Jagat and the Satyatvam of the substratum is what is illumined by this, what is revealed by this chapter. That is called Chitra Deepam. So those wise people or discriminative people who constantly deliberate upon the content of this chapter. Pashyantopi Jagat Chitram. It's not necessary that we read only. But we read, we understand and imbibe that. And if we gain the vision that is unfolded here, Pashyantopi Jagat Chitram, then Jagat Chitram Pashyantopi, in spite of seeing this creation in the form of the painting, Tena Muhyandi Purvat, they do not get deluded as they get deluded before. So as long as I did not have the knowledge, I thought that the creation is real, that the world is real. When the world is real, it means that my samsara is real. Because when the world is real, then the pleasure and the pain that the world seems to inflict upon me are also real. And therefore, the suffering in life also is real. So, on account of ignorance, on account of not knowing the true nature of the creation, true nature of therefore the pleasure and the pain, or the true nature of suffering, I thought that suffering really belonged to me, and that I was suffering, I was unhappy, I was samsari, I was limited. This is how I was deluded. Once I realized that the whole creation is mithya, suffering also is mithya. The ego is also mithya, which is creation. And therefore, tena muhyandi, there is no moha, there is no delusion anymore. Person becomes free from delusion. And thus, one becomes free from delusion, which is a product of ignorance. Ignorance gives rise to aviveka or non-discrimination, where the unreal is taken to be real, and the real is taken to be limited. And there is a mutual superimposition. So, the unreal and the attributes of unreal are superimposed upon the real, and the attributes of real are superimposed upon the unreal, and there is a total confusion in the life. And one becomes totally free from this confusion, becomes clear about the truth of life, and that is becomes free. So that is the result of the study of this chapter. Study and a constant deliberation upon the chapter, it gives rise to this result. Iti Vidyaranya Varichitayam Shri Paṃcadaśyam Chitradīpah Samaptah. In this manner, this sixth chapter called the Chitradiva Prakaranam in the Paṃcadaśī is concluded. I think the seventh chapter will start from tomorrow, because there is not enough time either way. So we'll conclude the class here today with the conclusion of the sixth chapter. The seventh chapter will begin from tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.